Hey there, I'm Tracy Rigdon, and this is the Contrast Project Lounge podcast. Often random, but always relevant, always real, and practically nothing is off limits. This podcast is for you. Are you ready for this? Let's do it. Welcome back to the program, guys. I want to thank you each and every one for being here today. Remember, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, Threads, and YouTube. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and smash all of those subscribe buttons. Joining me today is from WJXT Channel 4 in Jacksonville, Florida, Jana Angel. Jana, how are you doing?
Hello, Tracy. I'm doing great, and I'm just really excited to be here. Honored to share the studio with you.
Well, it's been a long time coming. I've told people before, it usually does take me a couple of months to get somebody on. So I'm going at it like year round. And as I mentioned before, today is our final recording of the 5th season, which gives me a couple of months off to do some back end stuff. I've really got to catch up on the website.
Well, I hope you get to relax a little bit along the way, because sometimes when we're busy telling everyone's stories, we forget to take some time to write our own chapters. So I hope you get to take some time for you in that time.
Oh, I do. Every single morning. We were talking about it last night. My buddy Jim, him and his friends, they go ocean swimming. And I grew up surfing on the north side of town, but my grounding today is on terra firma. I go out in the backyard in my garden in the morning, and that's what I do.
I love that. I enjoy both. I enjoy both elements. I think I come from a line of mermaids. Like, we have to be near water. All the women in my family are very attached to the water. But I do have kind of a rule. It's like, all right, if I can't see my feet, you won't see me. Like, I respect the ocean as somebody else's house. It's kind of like bears in the woods. I'm like, someone else lives here. I respect it, and I'm not getting too far out there.
Well, they get pretty far out there. Our guest last night, Giancarlo, he's actually training to go swim the Catalina Canal, the channel.
Wow.
And that's about 28 miles one way. I know.
Not for me.
No. Now listen, you've since before coming to Jacksonville and hosting on the show with our good friend Rance, River City Live, the morning show. You've had some you've had some media experience in other markets, like Living Local, Trending Today.
So I came from West Palm Beach. That was really my first true start in media. I will always be very grateful to my friend Liz Plummer. She was the first person really in production that took a chance on me when it came to creating content for TV. I had done private production before, where I was more on the back end. I'd been a grip, I'd been a fixer, I'd been a producer, I'd been a light bulb changer. Whatever someone would pay me to do, I would do, just to get experience, to understand more. And really kind of get that due paying process started. But I actually faced a lot of aversion to hosting and being in front of the camera because of my height. So I got a lot of no's simply because people thought it would be distracting. People thought it would look weird. People didn't like the way I looked. And she was the first one who, said, no, everyone's looking at you, and I want everyone to look at my show. So she actually saw it as an advantage. And I'll always be very grateful for that. But everything I did beforehand was in a what we call a pay-for-play format, or an advertorial format. So you actually have a lot more control over the messaging. But the challenge for us was to make sure that even though it was bought time, we didn't want it to look like an infomercial. Like, we knew it was an investment for these businesses, whether they were focused on B2B or B2C marketing. We wanted to make sure that they had a really clear, beautiful message that they could be proud of. And I always joke that I don't actually have any skills, but my one skill I do have is talking about what other people are good at. So I found a really good lane there, and got to work a lot with people who were focused on B2B marketing, which was something I was new to. If people aren't familiar with B2B, it's businesses looking to market to other businesses as opposed to a consumer. And then Living Local was something we created together, so that we could offer that B2C. So a business looking to advertise to a consumer, but with a much more immersive explanation of what their business did. So as opposed to just saying come shop here, saying come eat here, saying trust us. We wanted to show people. So really, I was in the business of show and tell. So kind of came full circle with, fifth and sixth grade when you're getting to bring something cool into class and tell people why they should think it's cool. Basically became my whole job.
Yeah, yeah. Well, kind of in a roundabout way too. You're continuing, you and Rance both, and everyone in the production department there for River City Live. It's kind of like that. It's a lifestyle program. It shows, showcases people in the community in Jacksonville. It's a wonderful program.
Well, thank you. We're very, very honored to do it. We have a balance here. It's kind of become a hybrid of what I've done in my past is the culmination here at Living Local, because we do have a mix of lifestyle, earned, advertorial media, and they're all really fantastic ways to just get the message out there. I'm one of those people who's always interested, I'm sure like you are as a storyteller, to where people get their information, what they're watching, what they want to see. And it's so unique to me how different people have so many different interests. And so the fact that we get to cater to a lot of different people on our show, we have a lot of autonomy. And I think I'm very blessed in that sense. And Rance is very blessed in that sense that we do have that autonomy. Kind of like your conversations sometimes on Wednesday night. Yeah, the wheels might come off every once in a while, but that's part of the fun.
They do.
And we get to be part of the fun, which is great.
Now you had mentioned something just a minute ago about your height, and I was not going to bring that up. However, since you did,
come on, I think we got to bring it up.
Well, I just found out something, a little tidbit that I did not know beforehand. You have a background as a professional volleyball player.
Yep, that is actually what started me in media. I didn't have any journalism training. I didn't go to school for TV or broadcasting. I went for international business and communications. I really loved language. I loved traveling. I loved exploring other cultures. In my head, when I was graduating, I really thought I was going to work at the UN and fix everything with just can-do attitude.
There you go.
Anyways, once I came to the realization that I couldn't do that all at one time, but we can all do what we can in our own circle, I had an experience when I was playing a game and someone was being ungodly cruel to one of my teammates. All she had done is missed a serve, and someone just started ranting and raving. And it's one of the few times I did really lose my cool in public, in front of an audience that I'm not necessarily proud of. But I just went and ripped him a new one. Now, my teammate said it was the best French I ever spoke, so I'll always be proud of that. But I was just like, who do you think you are? This woman's husband is in the stands, her daughter's in the stands, and he's just losing his mind over 1 point. And it really showed me that people are very detached when it comes to athletes and who they think of them as, what they think of them as. There's so much more behind these people than just the number on their jersey.
Sure.
I understand you get attached to a sports team, you love it, you hate it, whatever it is that you feel. But at the end of the day, that's a sports team full of individual people who live individual lives and who work really hard for what they do. And so what I started doing was actually making videos with each of my teammates so that people could get to know them off the courts. That player in particular, she was actually like a child pop star back in her home country. And one of my setters, was a physical therapist. Another one of my teammates, she was a licensed esthetician. There were so many different things outside of just the bump set spike that people got to see in the four corners of that gym. So that's actually what led me to media, was just the opportunity to explore someone's life outside of that one-dimensional character that you might see on the court.
Yeah, and that goes also, you talk about the athletes themselves. It also goes into the area of the cheerleaders. I'm a retired ICU nurse, and I worked at the Baptist Medical Center downtown for 22 years. And one of our ICU pharmacists, critical care pharmacists up there, we had our own on the floor. And she was one of the Jaguars cheerleaders at the time. And she would bring some of her friends from the squad up there and walk around and shake hands and see the patients and everything. So, I mean, you've got professionals not only in the athletes, arena, but in the cheerleaders as well, and people throughout the organization. They're more than just their sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have always been such I would say, a fangirl of any spirit leader, be that D line, be that Aurora cheerleader. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the talent and the practice that goes into executing the joy that we get to see on the sidelines is huge and is often forgotten. And as somebody who was in the same training room as cheerleaders, who was in the same classroom as cheerleaders, people in band and things like that, anyone who's executing something at a very high level, they put time, talent, effort, and they put a lot of sacrifice into it. And I think it's very easy when someone makes something look fun or makes it look easy, that it gets dismissed as, just kind of a very
Right.
come as you go, or come as you are, just very easy come, easy go kind of thing. And the reality is that it's not. The Jags cheerleaders here are incredibly kind. I've been
Mm-hmm.
so honored to interview quite a few of them. Same with the guys from the D line, and they work hard. And you will
Yeah.
notice that you don't ever see it on their faces. And I think that just adds to the professionalism. I'm always impressed with anything just at a high level, especially when someone makes it look easy. I know that they're even better at what they do because I know how hard it is. I can
Right.
imagine how difficult it is. I mean, it's rain, sleet, sun, shine. Like, you don't ever see the rain come down and they're like, oh no, put the cheerleaders in the back. They're out there, they're in it,
Yeah.
they're dancing, they're smiling, and no one's mascara is even running. So, I mean, that's just extra
I know.
magic in my opinion.
Yeah.
I have the highest respect for them, and always wanted to be one in secret. But again, kind of hide it out of that too, sized out of that and the Rocket, a little too tall.
Now, the D line, they just had auditions, I do believe, like a week or two ago.
They just had auditions. And they're such a phenomenally talented group,
Oh, yeah.
very much like the Roar. People forget that they have full-time jobs outside of this.
Mhm.
This is when you're a D-line member, you're a Roar member, you're not becoming a millionaire through your time with,
Right.
with the Jag support team. So the fact that they're literally pulling two different shifts, I've been to their practices, we filmed at their practices, and they're full on, they're full out, and they're hours at a time, late at night, and they're there with their coach, and they're doing all of this simply to bring joy to people and to add
Right.
to the excitement. So I am always very impressed with that group.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Speaking of the Jags, the elephant in the room, the new stadium. Are you, I'm just going to ask you, what do you think about the new stadium and the plans that we've seen of it? I know you spend a lot of time down there.
So I am very excited with the potential that this is going to bring for Jacksonville. My
Mhm.
hope for the stadium is just that as we go and as we plan, the revenue that's brought in, we're making sure that it's allocated towards resources that are going to benefit everybody in Jacksonville. Some people might never set foot in this stadium. They might never
Right.
go to a Jags game. But I think it's important that if the city's going to invest its resources, if we're both going to co-invest in this, it is something I think is going to push the city forward.
Mhm.
I just want to make sure that we're allocating those funds to take care of everyone in Jacksonville. I think it would be very remiss of me if I didn't recognize our devastating challenges with our homeless population, with the mental health resources that we're severely lacking, the fact that we need first line responders to be, at full tilt, and we are just really not there yet. So I think it is wonderful. I think we'll make a lot of advancements. I am for it, and I'm for the progress that it'll make, because I know sometimes you have to spend money to make money.
Sure.
However, I just want to make sure that we're thinking about all of Jacksonville and all of the 904 on the front end when we're saying, okay, we're going to invest this money, but what is the plan when we start to see these returns? And also, how is it going to benefit everyone, not just game goers?
Yeah. And it, in my honest opinion, I'm right there with you. And I think it's going to benefit a great deal of people in the entertainment industry in and around the urban core. But there again, you're talking about people that are actually going to go to the urban core. Whereas for years and years and years, you still have people living in the outlying areas of Jacksonville, let's say north side, northwest, west side, or at the beaches or something. A lot of people at the beaches never come across the creek. I mean,
Yep. I have plenty of friends that say, we love you, Jana, and we'll cross the W just for this one special occasion or something like that. But
yeah,
I mean, it is. We've all been out in traffic. It's the trenches. You really you got to want to go
yeah.
somewhere to heave up and go. And I didn't really think much of that. But coming from people are very much the same. If you
Hmm.
live in Palm Beach, you stay in Palm Beach. You might cross the bridge to West. You might go up to Gardens, and everything there's about 20 minutes. And it's not the fight that it is here to blaze our fine trails and highways. You really got to want to get up and go. So
Yeah.
I think if we are going to do this, I want us to do it well. I want us to do it right. I'm excited for the Four Seasons to be built because
Hmm.
I think that it will be able to amplify our tourism opportunities. There's I equate Jacksonville to like the person you date that just has so much potential, and now we're just waiting around to see if they're going to like put on the new outfit, if they're going to get the glow up. And I think we're in those stages. I've really fallen in love with the area, fallen in love with the people. Everyone's working very hard to get us there.
Hmm.
And so I just want to see us execute there at the end. And my hope for the stadium is that they listen to what the people want and what they
Hmm.
need.
Yeah.
I don't want this to be a Bezo rocket ship of a project. Like I want this to be useful. I want it to be purposeful. I want it to be meaningful. And I want it to bring the Jags to the forefront of the NFL. So I think
Hmm.
it's one of those things. If you look good, you feel good, you play well, all those kind of good things. So I'm hoping that if we get dressed up for the ball, we'll be able to go all the way.
I think so. I think so. And there's several other projects too. I mean, and just like I said, with the entertainment district, everything up and down Bay Street, I'm sure that they will benefit from the Jaguars playing during football season. But then there's concerns about, during the year. You hear a lot of people say all the time, well, what about the rest of the year when the team's not playing? Well, if you pick up the paper or you watch the news, there's typically something going on at that stadium all the time, and people, they
Right.
leave space in there. You've got the rooms upstairs and the conference rooms and all these areas that they are being used, and the team itself
Yeah.
is going to be paying a little over $1 million a year in rent. I think they're currently paying $1.5 million a year just to rent the place because, again, like a lot of people in town don't seem to understand, the stadium belongs to the city, not to the Jaguars.
Right. And I think that's important to understand. But speaking to the Jags organization, too, they're open. I've gotten to work very closely with them over this past year. Their director of marketing and business, Lindsay, especially, she's been very open and focused
Hmm.
on the fact that the Jaguars belong to the city as well. Like metaphorically speaking, she's
Oh
like,
yeah.
this is our home. These are our people. They've launched so many initiatives over this past year, calling on local artists to design posters, paying them for their work, making
Hmm.
sure that it wasn't just a collab. They're paid for their work. They're given digital space. They're given promotions. They sold out every single time they did this. They're working with Fanatics, which is a local company,
Right.
that was born here in Jacksonville to create the Pro Shop. Their foundation gives thousands of dollars each year. Right now, they're focused on getting helmets and gear, for children in need. So they do a lot,
Hmm.
but with great power, with great support comes great responsibility. So I just want to continue to see them do that, and for people to be vocal because they're an organization that does listen.
Yes, yes, they do. They always have. They certainly have. There's other besides the Jacksonville Jaguars. There's another fine building in town right now is that's going through. That's been all over social media, and it's got a lot of people up in arms about it. The Sunray Cinema. A lot of people upset about that moving out
So
of there.
fun fact, when Akon came to our studio a few weeks ago, I tried to get him to buy it. I said,
Hmm.
do you want us to make an Akon statue here in Jacksonville? Go buy Sunray Cinema.
Right.
Um, and I'm so disappointed at how this is playing out. And when you and I are having this conversation here in real time, it's not playing out how I want it to. There's something to be said for preserving nostalgia. I'm not one to stand in the way of progress
Hmm.
for a fond once a time memory. However, this is something that is still actively used. It's not dilapidated. This is something that is very iconic. It plays current movies. I mean, this is an experience. The
Hmm.
staff there is phenomenal. I got to experience Sunray for the first time this past year, and just thought it was fantastic. I saw the
Yeah.
Barbie movie there, which was just a really great experience for me. And sometimes you do just need to step in and say, no, this is something worth saving. This is something where the memory will mean more than money. And I'm not ever one of those people that's going to be like, no, let's, the this, that, and the other. I understand you got to get your bag sometimes. However, I think that there's so many different ways that this could be played. I think that they could work with the historical society to create options there. I think it could be donated and the company could then use, a lot of tax benefits, that
Sure.
I just, if it were my company and I could afford to do something differently, I would. I haven't met the people who own this. I don't know them personally. I wish they were in the studio with me because I'd be like, let's hash this out right now. Let's it's probably good that I don't, because I would harass them and just try to
well,
be
the
like,
Atlanta the Atlanta company, they closed on the deal, so it's theirs. They bought it from the Shad family.
Yeah.
And which, in my opinion, and I know the Shads, they have every right to sell their property if they want to sell it. The building itself is protected as a historical building. However, the movie theater is not. And as you know, the new owners are not renewing the lease for them.
Right. Yeah. They just flat out said, the lease will not be renewed. This is going to be done. And I think it's a shame. I think it's a shame. I think there are a lot of opportunities to do something that really would have wowed Jacksonville. I can't imagine having that kind of money. I would like to think if I did, I definitely want to be a lot more of a dreams come true kind of a person than not.
Yeah.
But I also understand and respect, people have to run their business the way that they see fit.
Sure.
It's just not something I would personally agree with from my bleeding heart standpoint.
Well, yeah, rumors abound. I believe that the new owners are going to put a music venue of some sort in there, which in and of itself wouldn't be,
like you said, that wouldn't be bad. I mean, because at least there, when we first heard about it, it was going to be, squished like a bug, and there was parking. And I mean, obviously we're on the news side, so we hear every little piece of rumor. So I would love to see it continue to be something that serves the community and continues to create art and continues to just bring a little life.
Yeah.
I know parking's tough. I know other things are tough. Let's keep a little joy in there somewhere.
Yeah. Well, before it was Sunray, many years ago, before it was Sunray, it was Club 5, and I actually worked at Club 5 at one time. I was a doorman. That was my part-time gig. It was a fun place.
I got to be a bouncer for one night, and I thought I did great.
Well, it's a fun gig, Yeah, you say a door person. Yeah. Bouncer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty much. Now let's shift gears a little bit here. You had mentioned to me that you're a huge advocate for animal adoption. How many pets do you personally have?
So right now I just have 2 dogs right now. I had 4 previously, had a separation, got one that got to come with me, found another one literally on the side of the road a few weeks later. So she's now part of the family. I currently have 2. We usually have a foster in the rotation if somebody needs me. And I am just a huge advocate for bringing in a foster animal, even if it's not a full-time commitment that you can make, donating or just liking and sharing posts. I try to remind people, I'm like, social media, a big part of it is free. So if you can just share a cute puppy picture on your story or on your feed, it really helps. It really does.
Yeah, there's a big need for it. I mentioned to you before, I have a whole herd of cats out here. And we've had the males fixed, but there's 14 of them. So occasionally we get some new kittens every now and again. And usually what happens is the male cats, because they're all feral, I feed them, but they're feral. They don't come in the house,
Right.
But they follow me around like they've, known me forever, which some of them have. I think the oldest one we have right now, she's a female. She's had, I don't know how many litters. She's probably about 10 years old, something like that. She's a beautiful cat. But they all come up on the porch. They sit up there with me. I go out on the porch and watch it rain and that kind of stuff. And all the cats are up there with me. And they follow me out to the garden in the morning. They're all up. And the one thing I will tell you about cats in a garden, they dig more than I would like.
Cats digging.
They dig all in my garden. They're all up in it.
Really?
Yeah, they are.
Wow. I didn't even think about cats digging because obviously I deal with digging with the dogs sometimes, but cats I didn't think about. I have two cats that share the sofa on my front porch. And it's always really funny because every once in a while, my dogs will get up early, and Hank, the bloodhound, he's tall enough so he can see out the window, and he pushes the curtain to the side. And sometimes the cats aren't gone by the time he would like. And so one day I'm worried he's just going to go through the glass because he'll just come face to face with one of the cats that lays out there. I'm just like, one day this is going to end badly.
I know. I've got I have some neighbors. Like I say, I live out in the woods. I'm on a couple acres, and I have a neighbor that's got a couple of dogs out there and a couple of horses. And the horses come over to the fence and they say good morning to me and all that. Well, they've got this one little yapper, a little Jack Russell, and they have a Doberman that's about 15, 16 years old. She's getting up there. Well, she just kind of lays around in the yard, but that little yapper comes over there and starts just raising hell at me every morning. Chases the cats.
Every big dog needs a tiny friend to instigate with. Yes,
I know. Now, moving on. You also tell me that you're very passionate about humanitarian efforts and human rights challenges that we're facing today, and we are certainly facing several of them that are top of the news cycle. Tell us a little bit about that.
I think just transitioning into news, I was always very aware of what was going on, what we were facing, but being on the news side, it's such a different perspective. Mm-hmm. And I really applaud our investigative reporters, our anchors, our political anchors, because I'm shielded from a lot of that. I'm lifestyle. I have a specific lane that I swim in, and I feel like I'm very blessed to do that. But there's so much turmoil and so much upheaval, mm-hmm. and just so much unrest. And I feel genuinely like so much of that is coming from a place of fear. Fear, unfortunately, when it can't be assuaged in any way, can very quickly turn into hate, because our bodies don't know the difference between just this feeling that's coming at us and the fact that it's inducing anxiety and it's making us anxious and it's making us upset. Mm-hmm. I would just encourage people that if something gives you that feeling, get curious about it. That's something that my therapist is really big on. She is like, if something is giving you a very visceral reaction, get curious about it and ask yourself, why is that? So one thing I'm very passionate about is the fact that I think that people should be able to love who they want to love. They should be able to marry who they want to marry. Mm-hmm. And I personally don't think that's any of the government's business. You're the government. You protect my borders. You take my taxes. Let's call it a day. There's so much overreach in my personal opinion. Yeah. My personal opinion. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be sharing that or not, but I love the government to government. So Jana can Jana. Let's all just stay in our lanes here and find a way to respect each other. Everyone has the right to live a kind, a fruitful, a beneficial, a loving, healthy life. Everyone should have the right to do that, just period, no matter who that is with. And I think as a part of the queer community, it's something that I've just always been bamboozled by, because I'm like, well, why is that anyone's business? It's always just been very odd to me. And the fact that we are even in this fight is challenging. And with so many friends in that community and, the absolute violence on drag and things like that lately, it's just things where I'm like, there's people without homes, there's people without families, there's children without parents, and sure. And you're worried about a man in heels that's performing for charity. Right. Think of all the things you could be doing with your time. It's like these people that are standing outside of clinics. I'm like, you've got a whole day to sit here and shame someone that you don't know. Do you know how many people would love for you to come and volunteer with them? Do you know how many things you could do with your time? And I think it's so challenging for me because I take it personally. I wish sure. I didn't, but I think unfortunately as an empath, that's kind of the card I was dealt. And when I see cruelty towards others, I feel it, and I just feel it in my throat, in my heart, in my core. And it's so hard for me because I genuinely don't understand it. Like they're people. How do you
Right.
hate people?
For no reason.
And we're all just trying.
Yeah.
Everyone's just trying to make it through to the next day the best they
Hmm.
can. And so for me, it's just so important for people to just be respectful of something. You can have different opinions, and that's okay. My line in the sand is, as long as you're not being hurtful of someone, you're not taking a right away from someone else, like that's fine. We don't have to agree. And I really wish that we could get away from this very aggressive, if you're not on my side, you're against me mentality.
Hmm.
Because the reality is we all have the same common enemy, and it's time.
Yeah.
The one battle we can all, we're all going to lose to at the end. So why waste so much of our time on
Right.
earth just fighting each other?
Yeah. And you mentioned, about losing rights and stuff, and that's become, it seems to be getting way out of hand these last couple of years. The rights are
It's
being
terrifying.
taken
Yeah,
away from young women, from gay people. I mean, and it just doesn't seem. It's like a steamroller.
it's genuinely terrifying.
It is.
And when it comes to things like abortion, and I hate that people even use the term pro-abortion, because no
That's not
woman's
what it
like, hey,
is.
I've got a free Tuesday. This is what I would like to do. It's
Right.
extremely painful. It's extremely damaging to a woman's body. Nobody is like, this is what I'd like to do with my free time. And I understand that there's so many challenges. And I think that's the thing too, is we try so hard to make things black and white when so much of the world is gray. So much of the world
Hmm.
is gray. And I think gray is okay. It's where we're asked as humans to use critical thinking. It's where we're asked to just think for ourselves, to be calm, be kind, and be understanding of someone's situation. But that's such a personal choice. No one should be mandating what's going on inside my body. Like, I think that is just such a daunting thing. It was, when some of these announcements would come out, like you literally just felt like your body was getting sucked out of you,
Right.
because it just seemed so surreal, like a dream you were going to wake up
Hmm.
from. And the same thing with marriage. I can't imagine just finally finding the person that I'm just in love with, and can't wait to spend the rest of my life with them and have a beautiful wedding, just like people have done for hundreds and thousands of years
Yeah.
and whatever. And then to be told no
Right.
because it's a woman that looks like me, or whatever. It's just,
It's,
there's a lot of things, Tracy, where I'm just like, it's none of your damn business.
I hear you. I hear you. Well, just like you said, you
$1 billion in debt. Go worry about that first. Like,
ex,
go worry
ex,
about that.
exactly. And you mentioned, when you hear some, a hurtful situation going on, and you said you felt it in your core. And you had mentioned to me earlier about your core values being love and kindness and hard work. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So core values are something that I never really thought of as personal. I'd always associated them with whatever company I was working with, whatever brand I was working with. I knew it was important for a company to stand for something, but I learned along the way that you as a person should have core values. There was
Hmm.
a keynote speaker at a convention that I was emceeing, and he talked about what his core values were for his family. And I just kind of thought, like, what does Jana stand for? And the way he did it with his kids was, he just said, like, for example, my last name's Angel, and it says, all right, we're angels. So what are we? It's, we're kind, we're calm, we're brave, we're this. And so I just started thinking about what is important to me, and what,
Hmm.
if someone walks away from me, they know that I stand for something. I think that's something that's so important to me, and something that I'm continuing to work towards, is that people know that I'll stand with them, that I will stand up. I'll never stand in anger, unless I have to defend someone. So I think just knowing what you stand for is a big thing for me. But I always try to lead with love. Sometimes it's going to be tough love. When people ask me my opinion, I'm always like, all right, do you need some sugar on it, or you just want, like, just Jana? What do you want? I always try to approach things with tact and with empathy, because I'm a sensitive Sally. Like, I don't want somebody to hurt my feelings. It hurts. That's like, they don't call it just, touching my feelings. It hurts in my feelings. So
Right.
I always try to lead with kindness. I do always lead with love, sometimes to my detriment. So I'm trying to learn how to discern, when it's okay to stop loving something, or when it's okay to kind of say, all right, I've done all I can do here. This is no longer healthy. It's time to step away, because I come from a long family of just, will help until it hurts. It's some people, it's really easy for them to be like, no, I need to get out of here. My family's like, no, we'll double down and fix it, and just, get out of there. So for me, it's love, kindness, compassion, and work ethic. And work ethic, I say, because, I was raised by a family of athletes. I was raised by a family of people who came from nothing but a lot of love. Like, financially, there really wasn't anything there. Both my parents went and became educated on their own. My mom went to Georgia Tech. My dad went to Clemson. My mom is a wildly accomplished woman, and the hardest working person I've ever met. And what's crazy about her is, once it's game on, you won't see her sweat. You won't see her ever lose her temper. She is the epitome of Southern grace and hospitality. But behind that grace is just pure grit. And it's like Savannah grits. She's, just such a phenomenal person. I've never seen someone who could just watch something or read something and then just be able to do it. It was definitely something I didn't inherit, because she can just make things beautiful. And she went to school for civil engineering, and just the way her brain works, she was a licensed contractor. She literally built our homes that we would live in. We'd move into a house that was just, a dumpster fire, and she would make it beautiful. And it was wild too, because growing up, I would see these different vendors come in to quote her, and they kind of just, and this was, early 90s, and women weren't flipping and stuff like that the way they are now. It wasn't even called flipping, but my mom would be out there, and she'd be on the roof and pregnant and this, that, and the other. Give my dad a heart attack. But so many of these vendors would come in and just think my mom had no idea what she was doing. Like, oh, this was her like honey at home project. And she was always so kind. She'd sit there and let them, rattle off whatever complete BS they were trying to give her to jack up the price or whatever. And then, right. And that was man lying at that point, explaining and lying. And then she would just very gracefully, respond to them and just rip them to shreds, but like in this beautiful, like scarlet tone. And so I just always thought that was so impressive. She actually used to run the Lake Hickory Country Club, and they wrote an article about her called the Jana of all trades, because she did everything. They had to hire 5 guys to do her job.
Wow.
So, I mean, she was just an incredibly talented woman. And my dad was the same way, built his business from the ground up, retired from basketball, had unfortunately experienced a pretty severe injury to his knee when he was at the training camps for the Knicks. Like, so, he's at the height of his career, has this injury. And then, if they were cutting your knees open, it wasn't, these days you got full PT, got this, that, and the other, you're up and running in 6 weeks. It was a much more invasive surgery. And fortunately, he had a really great doctor that said, listen, we can slice and dice you now. You might get another 5-6 years of playing, but you probably won't walk when you're 50. So my dad made the tough decision to walk away from that. And that had to be incredibly hard, because he was so talented and he was hitting his stride. He had, done great things at Clemson. He'd had, just a great coach that he'd gone under. Then Tate's Lock took over the team. Talk about a dumpster fire. Won't even give that man air in a jar anymore. But he always impressed me, because I was like, Daddy, like, we should just go get him and this, that, and the other. And he was like, no, like, people aren't always going to treat you well. And you can't let that eat you alive. And I struggle with that still. My dad's always very good about letting it go. It's hard for me to let it go. If someone has wronged me, that's when my core values go out the window. If somebody has wronged my friend, I'm like, that's when we're leading the cavalry, we're leading the crusade, and all of my like eat, pray, love therapy just goes out the window, because there is something in me who just wants to defend and to fight back. So, at my core, like, I am calm and loving, but it's like, once you hurt my feelings, God forbid you hurt my family or my friends' feelings, I'll fight you in the gutter. And that is something I've really had to work on and coach myself down from. especially when I know my friend or my family deserved better than the treatment that they got. And I do think that's why I'm so adamant about treating people better, is because they deserve better. Now, if you're jackass, you don't.
That's right.
Then you don't. Then I'm not talking about you. But my dad worked hard, and and he created a business and a life for his family. And you know, my growing up was amazing because my family never missed a game. It was a grandparent, it was a mom, it was a dad. They were at everything. Even when I, was playing overseas, they flew over there and played. When I went to the Olympic tryouts with my sister, my parents were there. And so, they were the helicopter parents before that was a thing.
That's
But
great.
they,
That's great.
yeah, I was so lucky at the time, I was just like, oh, but I know how blessed and how fortunate I am. And even today, if they're in town, they're coming by the studio. So people know full well, if you hire me, you get an entire Angel clan with you come hell or high water.
Well, Jana, I tell you, it's been a joy talking with you today. I've got one final thing before we go. Tell us a little bit about the Atomic Blondes.
Okay, all right. So that's a very, very new thing, but thank you so much for asking. You are good. You are a researcher. So the Atomic Blondes is a phrase that was actually coined by a dear friend of ours, and it was because he would see my friend Stephanie and I, Stephanie Mack, she's a local just fashionista and a marketing guru that does a lot of segments with me on the show. She serves as our fashion contributor, and she's been in the Jacksonville area for a while. She used to work in fashion, moved over to marketing, and we just became really fast friends. I think anytime you put two 6-foot+ tall blonde people in a room, like we're gonna become best friends and just kind of unite on the tall front. But our friend Dave just always was calling us the Atomic Blondes, because anywhere we would go, we were just kind of going all out, and we like to be extra and we like to dress up, and if there's a theme, we're going all in. And he just kind of coined the phrase. And so when we were at Players, the golf tournament, I was I think a couple 2-3 screwdrivers in, and I was like, that domain's available. Just taking after my dad. My dad loves to buy a domain, so do I. If I think of a catchy name, I'm going to buy the domain. And so I looked it up, and it was available for $11.99. And so I just hit the buy button. And then the next day, I didn't think really much more about it. And the next day I was looking at my emails, and I was like, look at this. I sent it to Stephanie. I said, I was like, well, I guess we have this website now if we ever want to do something with it. And we tend to just travel as a set. We, enjoy going to events together. We get invited to a lot of the same things. So we've kind of just got a routine now. We go to a lot of things together. She hates to drive, and I hate to drive by myself. So she'll DJ in the car and, get the map ready, and I'll spin us off to wherever we're going. And usually she picks out what we're wearing, because I love fashion. I just don't know how to do it as well as she does. So I know it looks great once it's put together, but getting there is sometimes a challenge for me. So that's why I have friends like Stephanie that are more talented than me. But Atomic Blondes was really just born out of, a suggestion that our friend Dave had. It was our nickname for a while when we'd kind of travel as a set. And so we're hoping that we can just do something with it and make it fun. A lot of people have been asking for some type of like learning involved. And so the fact that she has marketing, I have media.
A podcast.
I know, Tracy, you might have to help us get the podcast together. And we were talking about it, and like I mentioned before this interview started, I was like, oh, so we're going to be the other set of millennials with the podcast. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, maybe we are. Here, we'll do it. And something that Stephanie observed, and I was like, well, what would be like our thing? And she goes, well, one thing about us is I feel like we're both very accomplished but chaotic. And I was like, you're so right, because we'll both get it done. It'll look great eventually, but you have no idea the chaos, the shrapnel that led up to whatever this was. Like, our car probably looks like, a bomb went off. Somebody probably was like throwing shoes off of camera and we changed last minute. Self-tanner probably went awry. Like, I probably have extension glue somewhere. You just don't know like the chaos that ensued beforehand. But when people see us, they're like, you guys look where you're so put together. And we're like, you have no idea what we got here. It's just, So I think that's us. We're atomic blondes. We're accomplished but chaotic, and I think just sharing that with women will be great because it's so hard out there to not compare yourself to other people, and you always think you're not doing enough, or you're not doing it right, or you're not doing it well enough, and the reality is you're doing the best you can, and as long as you're doing the best you can, great. And the other reality is not everyone's going to like what you do. I'm sure we're going
Not
to start doing
everybody.
stuff and someone's going to have something to say, but Tracy, as long as you like it, I'm down for it. So I
Well,
love that you
again,
caught that. That makes me really happy because that we haven't put that out there like barely at all. So I'm really you're a good noodler. I
you,
appreciate that about
you're
you.
you're out there now. You're out there now. The Atomic Blondes. Uh,
We're out there now. The Tracy launch. I love it.
I know, I know. Well, it was a pleasure having you here, Jana, and you're welcome back on the program anytime. As a matter of fact, I forget if I mentioned it or not, but this is the final recording of our 5th season. So the next time I see you, you're probably going to have to come on the 6th season.
Okay. Okay. Well, maybe that can be, 6th season, and we'll add Stephanie in here. We'll be fully atomic by then. How about that?
That sounds good. Sounds good. Take care.
Awesome. Thank you, Tracy.
Well, that's a wrap. Another fantastic episode of the podcast. You can find us on all the social media platforms, wherever you surf: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter X, Threads, wherever. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. And on our YouTube channel, don't forget to like, share, comment, and smash that subscribe button. If you're streaming audio for the podcast, you can find us wherever you get your favorite podcast programs. In the meantime, I like to tell everybody, take care of yourselves and each other. Until next time, peace.